guys, it's your girl Tubbi of the Nerdy Bird side here, and thanks to theantidote.com, we're back once again to bring you insight on another local artist. I'm sitting next to Miss Taylor, who's not only a teacher, a scholar, a creative visualist in itself, but an all-around inspiration to the community that she resides in. I could spend literally an hour going through her resume and the things that she's accomplished at this point, but I won't. I'll actually let you guys hear from the horse's mouth. I'll let her tell you a little bit about where she's from, who she is, and what she's working on right now. Taylor?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that introduction.
No problem at all.
So yeah, my name is Taylor Scott, and I'm a spoken word artist here in the community. I'm also a full-time student at LSU. I'm a graduate student in English. What else about me? I'm a part-time teaching artist with Forward Arts, a nonprofit organization that teaches poetry and literary techniques and skills to youth across southeastern Louisiana. Yeah, what else about me?
Look, she can go on for days, like,
I'm just a performer, spoken word, music, performance art, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess we'll start with, how did you kind of get your run into art? What was your first inspiration point? How did you know that that would be your outlet so far as self-expression goes?
Oh wow, so that's a bit of a tedious answer, because there are many moments throughout this life where I felt as though art was my calling. And the very first time was maybe 3rd grade, where I was writing poems to my teacher, and my teacher would collect them. And at the end of the school year, she came to my house, my mom's house, and was just like, you have to get her on this path of poetry. She's really good. And so, she just kept a stack of my poems, talked to my mom about it. And that was the first time like it was introduced as a thing that I was good at. In middle school, I did, all the programs, like I was on it, like Taylor, reading poetry or whatever for any of the events. And then high school, that's when I really got into spoken word poetry proper, and not so much page poetry. So that's my background, coming from the page. Maya Angelou's the first poet I was introduced to. Yeah, of course. And then Edgar Allan Poe, so that was kind of a weird mix.
I actually like Edgar because you still get the depths that you get from Maya, but you get a different perspective on things.
Yeah, really dark. So yeah, I was introduced to Forward Arts by Professor LSU, Sue Weinstein. Met Donnie, met Zero, who are two, community heads, spoken word heads, activists, all around great human beings. Kind of mentored me in spoken word poetry, and I started competing. And I dropped off the scene for a little bit, and then it was reintroduced. My senior year, I applied to a lot of schools, but the school I really wanted to get into was the University of Wisconsin-Madison because of their First Wave program. And First Wave is a hip-hop theater community. It's the only kind in the country, only kind in the country, and it's based on collaborative ensemble work. So I did that throughout undergrad. Was there for 4.5 years.
Nice. So once you kind of started to absorb not only your passion, because naturally it was a passion, you started out pretty early without anybody having to force it, but once you started to establish, I guess, your style of spoken word, your style of poetry, and your style of music, what kind, outside of your mentors, if you had to pick an inspiration point, whether that's something around you or a person, what do you think kind of really inspires the Taylor behind the mic?
I really am a fan of Saul Williams. I'm a fan of Orson Shire, and just poets who are really about making every line count. There's not a dead line within their writing, or a line that doesn't pop or couldn't be a poem within itself. And so I try to make my work really, really compact. You probably saw some of that last weekend.
It was actually really nice. The howling in the background, that was me, guys. That was me, because she's off the check, no lie.
Yeah, I try to be really meticulous about that, that every line has to exist on its own. And of course, like, be a part of a cohesive thing. But yeah, focusing on syntax and diction, so choosing language really, really carefully, and then the arrangement of language as well.
Nice. So being that person that is behind the mic in the spoken word aspect, do you find that it's easier to express yourself through your poetry or just in general?
I would say just in general, and I'll tell you why. So a lot of the poetry I create is out of stillness.
Gotcha.
So if something happens to me, like something traumatic, like I may not write about it for like a year or maybe like, you know, months at a time. But really like sitting with it, like, you know, being by myself. I spend a lot of time by myself. I mean, I have a partner, but I spend a lot of time by myself anyway. And yeah, just like reflecting, also, you know, with my work. But yeah, I don't really write. I seldom write actually. But when I do, it's an amalgamation of experiences, and I read a lot. I read at least 600 pages a week for school, and also just, you know, for pleasure. But yeah, just intaking a lot, and when I finally write, like it's a well that I can draw from. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's a very beautiful thing. I think a lot of people, even being able to take in reading or being able to reflect on experiences, be that good or bad, they still have a hard time relaying that message in such a structured way. And I know in a lot of cases that's something that is taught rather than, I guess, self-evaluated.
Yeah.
But I guess my next question for you would be, so far as the spoken word scene goes, so far as poetry goes, what do you feel like is missing from the artistic, creative scene in that sense? What's missing from the spoken word scene?
In Baton Rouge?
Yes, in Baton Rouge.
I would say more women, and also because I know this past weekend at the Faith and Soul event, there was only 2 women on the mic that night.
Yeah.
But you know that may have, you know, that has its own set of reasons, but yeah, I think it could be more woman-oriented, Black woman-oriented, and also I'm trying to fill that need in terms of Black women creating with each other. I think that's also missing. And there's always the myth or the stereotype that Black women are always in competition with each other. But to kind of dispel that, and that's one of my projects right now, is working with Black women in the community. I had a pilot workshop a few months ago, and then I had an official workshop last weekend, last Saturday, a Black women writers workshop. It was like 3 hours of just Black women creating together. We created what I like to coin like a hypertext. So all together, like, you know, the prompt was something that the collective could write. We come together, it looks like, you know, a long poem about 13 pages.
Okay, it's very nice.
Quality work too.
Now let's touch base on that experience right quick, because I know to have that many women, strong-minded, intellectually sound, come together and really be able to chip away at a certain thing. How was that experience overall, and do you plan on doing it again?
So the way I would describe it is that it's really pleasurable, and not even in a sexual way, but in a really like erotic, like, you know, I'm creating with another Black woman for this joy,
right.
You know, and that was the whole basis of it, to center joy. Even the writing was to center pleasure and joy, and not that joy is ignorant to hardship, but that it's so easy to write about pain. It's so easy to write about centuries and centuries of, you know, oppression. But it's much harder to write about, you know, what we enjoy, what makes us happy, because we're not given permission to.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, being a Black woman, especially in the country that we live in, and we like to think that we're in a very post-racial society. That may not be the case. You know what I'm saying? Understanding that microphone does become an outlet for Black women to be able to express themselves in the ways that I guess a lot of people aren't open to being able to express themselves. Do you find that your fellow spoken word, so far as your Black females go, do you find that them being able to speak out on the mic opens other outlets for other women to, I guess, be moved to do the same? Or is it just more of a creative thing where it's kind of like, okay, good point?
Wait, can you rephrase that question?
Sure.
I'm not sure if
I got you. Most people that come into the poetry scene actually just like the way it sounds. They like the performance of it. When you look at the Black women that you've actually worked with and you've gotten the opportunity to, I guess, embody with your poetry, do you find that they are actually making it easy? Like I said, it's not easy to talk about the negative thing. It's easy to talk about the negative things.
Yes.
It's not easy to talk about the positive things. Do you find that open mic actually helps them find a way to not only express themselves but inspire others in the process?
Oh, like the workshop space.
Like the workshop
space. Yeah, of course. Like they were in love with the process. Like I said, it wasn't just pleasurable for me as a teacher, because I love teaching,
right,
but also for them as kind of students and also teachers. Not like in a literal sense, but teachers of each other, teachers of me.
Right.
Yeah, I would say that internalize the work in specific ways, and I definitely think that they will bring that out to the world in whatever capacity that they can. But yeah, I think it was a healing space, and I invited certain women, a lot of queer Black women too. So it was healing oriented, pleasure oriented, and yeah, I hate the word safe space, but a space in which they can be open.
I do like that. Now, age-wise, do you find it to be a certain age range of Black women that actually take to this particular creative vision, or is it kind of a broad spectrum?
No, I mean, the youngest person in that workshop was 18, and I think the oldest may have been pushing 40.
Okay.
So, and I invited women across age ranges. I just was kind of skeptical about, inviting anyone who wasn't legal.
Right.
So I kept it at 18. But if someone was 17 came to me and wanted to be a part of the workshop, I let them. But yeah, no, it was a far range of age, within the group.
Now, do you plan on hosting another workshop? And if so, how do the community members actually get in touch with you in regards to signing up or being a part of it?
Yeah. So for any Black woman, really Black woman creative, if you want to be a part of the space, you can follow me on Instagram at Taylor_C_Scott. You can also hit me up on, my email, which is taylorscottbr@gmail.com, and just ask about the workshop. If you want more information, I'll be happy to share that with you.
Awesome. Now, publish-wise, do you have anything out right now, or anything that you're working on? Because I know that there are so many ideals in your head that the world needs to hear.
Yeah.
When can we expect the Taylor story?
That's a good question. Actually, I'm working on a manuscript now. Right now I have about 20 pages of solid poetry, and for a full length you need about 40. And I mean, there are some deadlines coming up that I plan to apply to, but definitely I have something that I'm working on. I don't have a title just yet, but some of the themes of womanhood, Blackness, the title, I think, don't quote me, is Got My Baby, Got My Gun, and a lot of it is centering the Black woman experience with black male death, and just the experience of being a Black woman in America.
Very nice. I can't wait, because I know, controversially speaking, it's not very often that we as Black women are comfortable being able to express ourselves in the senses of what's going to be said, what's going to be done, or how do we stereotypically turn in regards to making a negative thing on our behalf.
Yeah.
Black girls aren't allowed to express themselves. We're not allowed to have emotions, because if we do, we're angry. If we do, we just lack understanding. So I think it's a beautiful thing that you're actually going into the community and inspiring Black women to come forward and speak your truth, and don't let anybody kind of put a stamper on what that truth is. So I'm actually looking forward to the book, and I hope that it comes a whole lot soon. Publications, I know that you're working on something. Do you have anything out right now, or anything that they can check published?
I don't have any poetry out per se, but I did. In a past life, I had a band. We're called the Bellhops. But you can find our music on Bandcamp at thebellhops.bandcamp.com. And it was about a group of 20 of us. And it was an ensemble, saxophones, trumpets, not trumpets, we don't have trumpets, I lied. No, saxophones, flutes. No trumpets. No clarinets either. But drums, multiple pianists, guitarists, upright basses, and about 4 or 5 singers.
We'll touch that for a second, because I know your lyrical bases are awesome, so I can only imagine your ear for music.
Oh yeah.
How did that get started, and what was your role in that whole band life?
Oh yeah, so I'll start with my role actually. So my role was creative director and founder. So yeah, I auditioned people, got them together, did set lists, booked gigs, and things like. We had a lot of gigs, surprisingly. Well, not surprisingly, but for the market, we got a lot of gigs. And how I got started. Well, before the band was even a thing, I had a friend named John Vietnam, and he passed away. And the first time I ever performed with a band live was in London. We were on a stage at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club.
How cool is that? How cool is that? You're sitting here on call, she's performed in London, and you're sitting here it's not a big deal.
Yeah, so we were on stage together. It was the first time I had a band behind me. And at that point, I had just been writing catchy hooks, and people were singing my hooks in ciphers and whatnot. But that was the first time I performed with the band. And I just loved that feeling, and that was one of the last times I had interactions with him, was when we were touring together. And so, you know, we had to do a tribute when he passed away, which was after that summer we toured. It was like a month after that. So it was August 30th, and there was a JVN day, right? And so myself and a few of the women in First Wave, because this was in Madison when I was in college. But yeah, we were there, and we got together a little collective, and I wrote my first full song. It was called Book of Job, and it was about, you know, the stresses of being someone who constantly feels picked on by the universe, basically. Yeah, so I wrote that song. I actually wrote it for his father, who was there and who enjoyed the song. But yeah, no, it was a beautiful experience, and from there, you know, I was kind of inspired to keep going, keep writing songs.
So I know that songwriting phase has not passed, and it may not be something that's, I guess, on the front burner, but do you plan on actually coming back into the music at any point soon?
I can't say that for sure, actually.
Man, I'll take that.
Well,
life limitations either.
Life happens in cycles. When I was working on music, I wasn't working on poetry.
Gotcha.
So now that I'm working on poetry, it's because I don't have access to music or musicians. But if you're a musician, hit me up.
So she said she has time for the creative. She just doesn't have the space to create.
Yeah.
So if you are a musician and you're looking for a different sound, a different vibe, something very enlightening, make sure that you hit Taylor up, because it won't be just your average skip through the park, reverse, whatever. It'll be something that actually is meaningfully felt. And that's speaking from experience. I've heard the girl speak. She's good. Very good. Okay, now I know that, like I said, music is something that's on the back burner. For now, I'm gonna speak it into existence. She's gonna be working on some stuff in 18, y'all, so y'all make sure y'all check in with her. But what else do you find, or do you think that you'll be working on coming into the turn of the new year?
Oh wow. Well, I'll actually be trying to get more gigs. So seeking new venues, trying to get that book deal, because that's more publicity as well. But just trying to put my poetry out there more. This past weekend was the first time I performed in a while, actually. So just trying to get back out there, writing, evolving, like being a better writer. Yeah, I'm never gonna stop trying to grow as a writer.
I love that, I love that. Now, if you could give a piece of advice to any of the creatives out there, we're not talking location, we're just talking all the way around the board, no limitation. There are creatives that are really trying to find themselves, or trying to find the best way to express themselves and put their work out there. If you were able to give any advice to them, what would it be?
Let's see. Well, my biggest attribute is my ability to collaborate.
Gotcha.
So I would just say, and not everybody is for collaboration, but yeah, I think that's helped me a lot grow as an artist, just seeing the brilliance of my peers. And, you know, honestly, coming from an ensemble background, both, you know, theater, spoken word, and also music, 10 brains are better than one sometimes, you know, that's just what it is. And, you know, another person can take your idea higher and higher, even if collaboration is in the capacity of them just reading over your work, and make sure you have a good critic, not someone who's, you know, flattering, not someone who's a hater. Like, you want that person in the middle to critique your work. But yeah, just constantly being with your work, stillness also, which is something that I practice. Yeah, something that you know, means a lot to me and my process. And just sitting with an idea for a while. You don't always have to run to the page.
Gotcha. That's a beautiful, beautiful insight. I know a lot of people kind of, I guess they feel set back when it comes to having to sit on their work. They feel like they're not making as much progress with it. So that's a very, very important tidbit. I think a lot of artists have a hard time finding that balance between truth and a timeline. I think too often we put ourselves on a schedule that kind of rushes our work. Do you think that time in itself plays an ultimate factor in a person's ability to create?
No, I've written songs in under 5 minutes, you know. It just depends on the wavelength you're on, but that's also, you know, that's, like I said, amalgamation of things building. Like, it wasn't just something happened to me, I have to write about it. Like, you need time to process, right? You can't process a thing, you know, in a day, let alone a week. And so, yeah, I think it's an integral part of at least my creative process. And I'm still, you know, kind of at tension with that idea with myself, because you know, sometimes, like you said, like I don't feel productive enough. I don't feel like a real artist if I'm not always
doing
creating. And it's a myth. It's bullshit, honestly. So, yeah.
Now, I'll ask you this and we'll kind of get ready to wrap up here. I know that your mind is going 1,000 miles per hour with a lot of the topic structures that we face, a lot of social injustices, and a lot of the, I guess, just disgusting behaviors that we face today as humans. If spoken word was the outlet for change, how do you think you make the difference in it?
When I taught in class this past Thursday, you know, I was talking to my kids about the different types of protests and the different ways you can express rage. A protest is not just holding a sign up and yelling, right? Or not even yelling, or just like chanting, whatever it may be to some people, you know, the stereotypical version of it. You know, a protest could be your heart beating. A protest could be you holding your lover. A protest, you know, could be a poem. And the first poem I did was The American Corner, and it kind of talks about, you know, being a black woman witnessing all this death. But I think, you know, being an advocate for myself, for my experience is the best thing that I can do, because I know I'm not the only one experiencing, you know, this trauma, right? So yeah, just speaking your truth, and yeah, I do think that that words do incite change.
I love that. I love that. Now, I want you to go ahead on and tell them across the board, whether it be for booking with Touch It Again, whether it be for booking purposes, or whether they're just trying to keep up with all things Taylor.
Yeah.
Where can they find you on social media? How can they get in contact with you?
So my Instagram handle is Taylor_C_Scott, and yeah, I hope you follow me.
Yeah, you guys, I'm telling you right now, it's not just the camera talking. Her person, her energy, if you can feel what I feel, you actually be more inclined to want to meet her in person. But do yourselves a favor, tune in with Taylor, tune in with the work that she's working on. Come out to some of the open mic nights here in the city, because you might just run across her and get an opportunity to get insight on some of the things that she expresses through her truth, because I don't think she takes off anything. Like, nothing's off limits for her. Everything is direct, it's experience, it's real life, it's reality, and some of it's ugly, and that's okay, because she finds a very beautiful way to put it. Thank you guys very much. It was a pleasure, Miss Taylor. I do thank you so much for coming out to join us, and I hope that we'll get more time to speak at a later date and that some of those updates come through. You guys make sure you tune in right here with theantidote.com for more exclusive updates with Miss Taylor.